Hello there, this is Margaret, and welcome back to Radiant Wholeness. Today, we're going to talk about rage and anger and frustration and how you can actually use these emotions for good, for creating more love, for creating more intimacy, for creating more justice, and even for creating more joy and confidence and power in your life. Now, that's probably not what you've been told about anger and frustration in the past. You've probably been told that they're bad emotions that don't help you. But I am going to show you how you can really work with these powerful emotions so that rather than shutting you down and making you filled with negativity, they actually support you to create more good things in your life and in the world. Let's dive in.
As always, before we get started, make sure you hit the bell and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss a thing. Welcome to Radiant Wholeness, the soulful sanctuary for big-hearted high achievers longing to cultivate more joy, fulfillment, and inner peace. I'm your host, Margaret, and I'm an expert at helping high achievers create the life their soul is longing for. I'm a published author and a master life coach, and I'm all about creating massive social impact while loving yourself, speaking your truth, and connecting with the divine on the inside. Now let's dive in.
All right, so today I'm going to take you into a 4-step approach that you can use in order to really express your anger and your frustration in ways that are incredibly supportive to your well-being and to the well-being of the people in your world. But first, we need to start with a little bit of honesty around what we're taught about anger, right? Think about it. When you were a child, you were probably told not to be angry, that it was not becoming on you, or that you wouldn't have a lot of friends if you were angry, or you'd be labeled with negative titles if you were angry, especially if you were a woman, right? It's not becoming, it's not ladylike. We get all these funny conditioning that we've been handed down, and so we learn not to be angry. We learn that it's not lovable, that this is not a lovable part of who we are, and so we push it to the side and we suppress it, right? And same thing with getting older, right? When we get older, we've already learned that it's not lovable. Not to mention, our anger makes us feel extremely kind of vulnerable, right? We don't feel really in control when we're feeling a lot of rage or frustration or anger running through our bodies. And so because this is a vulnerable state, it stops us from actually sharing it with people and really owning it and honoring it for why it's here. Instead, it just kind of sits inside of us because we don't know how to work with it and address it, right? So this is the conditioning we're working with. But the impact of this conditioning and these choices that we've made to suppress anger is that it comes up anyway, but in really ineffective and unhelpful ways, right? How many times have you, just swallowed the pill of anger or frustration at, your friend or your partner, and then all of a sudden one day you just had so much of that built up inside of you that you just had to cut them off. You were just done because you couldn't have expressed all that stuff that was building in the meantime, right? Or you just lost it yourself one day. You just completely spiraled into anxiety or depression or just complete overwhelm because you had all of this unprocessed frustration and rage going on inside of you, right? And so when we don't address something in the light of consciousness, it ends up coming out in shadowy and unhelpful and ineffective ways. And that's what we've done to anger. We've said, sorry, anger, this part of me doesn't belong here. This part of me isn't lovable. This part of me isn't helpful or good. And so I'm going to suppress it. I'm going to cut myself off from really dealing with it. And then, of course, we have the world that we live in, where anger is coming out in all of these really sketchy ways, from online trolls to just screaming at people to, really high divorce rates and everything else. So I am here today to help you reclaim anger so that it's actually a tool to support you to deepen your relationship with yourself, with those around you, and create a better world from the inside out. So we're going to go into the 4-step approach of what that looks like, right? But the first thing that you need to know on a mindset level before we go into those steps is that anger and every emotion is designed in an evolutionary way, meaning it was designed just like our eyes were designed for evolutionary purposes, right? In sense of going through the evolution process, our eyes have been evolved and developed in such a way that they allow us to see things in the way that is most helpful and effective for humans to be seeing and perceiving things, right? All parts of who we are have evolved for helpful reasons, and our emotions are not separate from that. So anger literally has an evolutionary purpose to it. And what is that evolutionary purpose? Why are we designed with anger inside of us? Because anger lets us know when we have a boundary or a value that is being violated. And it gives us, if we know how to work with it, the energy and the intention and the focus and the clarity to be able to actually take action on fixing that value that had been violated or that boundary that had been violated, right? So that is why anger is here. You are a human, and so you get angry. And if you don't think you get angry, by the way, let me tell you, it is just suppressed so deep inside of you. We all have this programmed into us on an evolutionary basis. So I want you to remember this as a mindset piece as we get into all of these 4 steps, because it helps you meet your anger with a different attitude. Not, oh, this is something bad or shameful or something I should hide, but hey, this is part of the human experience, and it's here to teach me about how my boundaries have been violated or my values have been violated, and it's here to energize me and support me in really bringing those things back into balance and into honoring. So let's dive into those 4 steps now. So step 1 of feeling angry and being able to express it in a way that's actually helpful and supportive is to create a container for the raw and reactionary rage that comes up. So let's say you get that passive-aggressive email from your boss again today, or let's say your partner again today didn't do that thing that they promised you that they were going to do. Or let's say your neighbor voted for that political candidate that you just can't understand how somebody could support. Whatever it is, right? Your anger comes up. It's here. What is your normal response? You might have been, like we talked about, used to suppressing it or pushing it in or covering it over with a smile. Things are fine. It's okay. No big deal, right? But I actually want to enable you and empower you to create a container to feel that rage and express it and allow it shamelessly. Now, I say container because we do want to do this in private. We do want to allow this part of us to come to life without having to explain it to other people or even let it really be witnessed by other people who might not be able to understand it at that phase of the expression of anger. And so what I do is, if my partner pisses me off, I will very much say, hey, I need a minute. And I will walk away into my bedroom. Maybe I will scream. Maybe I'll jump up and down. Maybe I'll hit a few things. And you know what? That's a lot better than me taking it out on him, and it's a lot better than me suppressing it and pretending to be happy. So I just let this rage, this anger move until it's done, because emotions are just energy in motion. And so literally the raw energy of anger, science has actually proven it doesn't really last for more than a few minutes if we honor it. If we suppress it, it lasts for a lot longer than that. So you honor the anger, you honor it by letting it move shamelessly. You want to scream into a pillow, you want to hit something, you want to write a letter to somebody, that you're not going to send that just says, how could you do this, you ignorant piece of... That's good, honey. This deserves expression. It is allowed, okay? And what this does is it moves that raw energy, that raw energy of the rage, and it keeps you open and energized rather than trying to stick it down and then getting all anxious, right? Think about how intense anger is as an emotion. So when you stick it in this container that is your body, then all of that energy, that emotion, right? Energy in motion is stuck inside your body. So in order for you to stay in control, you actually have to be able to give a container to move that energy, right? And even if you're at work, you can go into the toilet, you can have a little squeeze ball, put it in your mouth and just scream, right? Or just shake like this. You can get creative. I have a friend who would go to the store, the thrift store, and she would buy a bunch of 30 cents teddy bears and kind of just rip their heads off. And by the way, she works for Doctors Without Borders. She's a senior person in that organization. So this is a compassionate person. These aren't crazy people. You know, these are people though who see a lot of injustice in the world, who see a lot of challenges in the world and feel understandably angry, right? About poverty and suffering and tragedy and difficulty. It's okay. It's a value of theirs that's being violated. And so they're allowed to feel anger, right? Now, once you move, what will happen after that first thing is you will really, really feel like, okay, that raw energy has moved, and you'll slip into a feeling of kind of presence, deep presence, right? Because all of that energy, now that it's moved, now has kind of less space with this deep sense of presence within you. And now we get to go into the part of using this anger, this trigger, to actually create more love in your life. So step 2 is going to be to practice self-compassion. So the energy has moved, and now what I really want you to do, you're feeling a little bit of peace or maybe even just exhaustion. I want you to sit down, and I want you to get really compassionate with yourself. I want you to figure out, hey, why does this truly, truly matter to me so much? Not, what am I judging about the other person, or why are they bad, or how should I control them or hurt them, but what really matters to me? What is the value that I have right now that's being violated? What is the boundary that's being violated, right? What is going on underneath the surface here, inside me, that I am triggered at this level? And to meet that with just profound compassion of, wow, there's clearly something that matters to me so deeply, that I believe in, that I know so deeply, that is being violated or hurt here or threatened here. And that's okay. And it's hard, and I get to love myself, and I get to be compassionate with myself and understand why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, and understand that this deserves love and attention and care, rather than just papering it over or moving forward or just staying judgmental. This deserves real love and tenderness. And so a lot of times we tend to get angry when, somebody is doing something that we feel like they're doing it to hurt us, right? And a lot of times that's not the case. They're often doing it to just stand for what they believe in, or protect their own needs, or, really just show up for themselves, and they don't even have us in mind. But we often internalize when we say, oh, my partner isn't having this serious talk that we need to have with me because he doesn't love me. And if you really value, communication, and you really value expression as a way of love and a way of loving, then there's your value being violated, right? And so, of course, you're feeling really, really, really upset, and that's okay. Similarly, right? If you feel really, really angry about someone at work not doing their part of the responsibility that they have, right? Maybe that means that you're doing more work, or maybe it means that, you have this value of people really being of integrity and following up with what they say they're going to do, and that value is being violated. And it's okay for you to feel angry, and it's perfect for you to just have compassion and say, hey, for someone who values integrity so much, it's really hard to be working with people who, have a different relationship to timelines and deadlines and work sharing, right? And it's okay. And I'm just going to offer myself compassion, right? For feeling the way I feel. I'm not going to sit in judgment of that person, but I'm going to sit here and love myself and say this matters, and I get to pay attention to this and find a solution. So that second step of real self-compassion, letting this matter and understanding what is really beneath your anger. It's never just anger. There's always a value or boundary being violated, or maybe even a traumatic event that you're being reminded of through that circumstance. And that deserves love, compassion, patience, attention. Now we get on to the third step, and this one is a little bit more challenging, but equally as important. You want to practice compassion for the other person, for the person who is making you mad. And the way you want to practice that compassion is really to feel into what is the unmet need, or the fear, or the ignorance, or the trauma, or the limiting belief that has been conditioned into this person that is making them act from this place. it can be really helpful here to remember that only hurt people hurt people. So happy people don't hurt people, right? You're not like, today's a great day, sun is shining, bam! No, we don't do that, right? Only hurt people hurt people. Misery loves company. And so if somebody is hurting you, intentionally or unintentionally, they are acting from their hurt. And we have to have compassion for that. Because it is in this compassion and understanding what is the hurt that they are acting from that we can meet them on that level, just like we're meeting ourselves on that level. We do unto others as we are going to do unto ourselves. And so you look at that person and you say, hey, maybe my boss is just really, 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 really stressed. And he's really unable to think about how this email lands on me. Or maybe my boss was taught that, this is what leadership looks like, is beating people up and scaring them to results. Maybe that's the only way he knows how to get results out of himself, by beating himself up and scaring himself into getting results. And that's all he knows, and so that's how he's talking to me, right? So you really want to feel into, on a compassionate, heart-centered level, what is the fear? What is the ignorance? What is the need? What is going on underneath the surface that is causing this to be a hurt person who's now hurting me? And then from that place of understanding deeply your pain, your true pain, right? Understanding the values that matter to you and how anger has supported you in getting clear on that in this circumstance. And from that place of then having that sense of compassion for the other person, you then enter into the fourth step. We enter into dialogue. And what you're doing in this fourth step is stating your truth, but really rooted in the authority of love and compassion. And so if your truth is, it's deeply, deeply hurtful to me that I get an agreement with people around how much work we're each going to do in this situation, and some people don't follow through on that. And I experience that as a lack of safety and a lack of integrity. And I really want to create more integrity. And I really want to create more reliability. And I understand that that's only my perspective, right? So that's your truth, but you own it rooted in the authority of love and compassion. So you say, I understand this is my perspective. And now I want to hear yours. I want to understand how for you meeting this deadline is related to integrity or not, or what was going on in your experience that you thought it was okay to miss that deadline. And let's talk about this, rooted in the authority of love, right? So you get clear on your boundary, you're clear and curious about what's going on with this other person underneath the surface. And then rooted in love, rooted in your desire to have you experience more love, the other person experience more love, and finding a solution that truly, truly serves the long-term well-being of everybody. You stick to your truth. You acknowledge the other person's truth and lovingly look to compromise. That is the power of anger. Think about all of the people who have created massive social justice movements in the world, right? They have come from anger. Anger at what wasn't working, right? But just like right now in our conversations around race, we understand that many, many people of color are deeply angry because they have not felt seen. They have not felt as heard. And that is deeply, deeply valid. So too, so many of them are willing to come to the table and have a conversation around what is it within white dominance that makes so many of us unable to have a real heart-centered conversation around structural racism. And for so many people, white people, it is the sense of fragility. It is the sense of I feel bad and wrong and I don't powerless and confused, and there's this deep sense of fragility. And so if we can approach race relations with an honoring of the fragility that is within a lot of the kind of dominant institutions, paired with an honoring, a compassionate honoring of all of the needs that are being unmet in communities with people of color, then we can come to the table and understand each other from that vulnerable, loving, compassionate place. But it is anger, it is the needs of both being unmet, and the anger that causes that can allow us to drop into that compassionate conversation. So if this served you today, if this video served you today, then I want you to really take the time to book a call with me right now, because once you really change your relationship to anger and really to all of your emotions, and you know how to use them, sit with them, work with them, alchemize them, so that you can actually create more love and more connection and more clarity and more justice in the world, then your life will change forever. Because you're not just trying to feel good all the time. You're not just seeking happy states all the time. You're not just seeking positivity. You can let yourself feel everything that you need to feel to be a human in this world in an empowered way. And you can use it with love. So book this call coming up. It's coming up at the end of this video now with me today. And so we can talk about how to really customize this approach with anger in your life for your relationships, for your work, and really for your own joy and well-being. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week.
If this episode resonated with you and you want my help applying these ideas to your life in a practical way right now, then you're in luck. Because every week I set aside a few hours to talk exclusively to big-hearted high achievers who want my help figuring out how to create more joy, fulfillment, and inner peace while making a positive impact on the world. This is a 1-hour call with me personally, and it's completely free for you. On this call, we will discuss your dreams and get clear on the values and impact that you want to create in the world. We'll identify the limiting beliefs that are keeping you stuck in negativity and how to create more joy and ease. We'll look at where you feel victimized and the mindset shifts that will help you reclaim your power. And we'll map out the inner changes you need to make to cultivate purpose, fulfillment, and deep, authentic connection in your life. After our call, if I'm confident that you are committed to doing the inner work to create more joy and fulfillment, I might even invite you into my exclusive community for big-hearted high achievers, where we can take your transformation to the next level. So if you're seeking support, book your breakthrough call with me today by either opening up your camera on your phone and putting it in front of this QR code, or just by going directly to caitlinmargaret.com/apply.